Hey everyone, it is the start or almost the start of a new year, and I have a collection of books that I've decided I want to read this year as part of a reading challenge. And some years I do reading challenges and some years I don't. Some years I just read whatever I want to read. But this is just one of those years where I have 24 classics I've had my eye on that I want to get to, which may seem like a lot, and it is a lot, but that's 2 books a month, and I think I can handle that. 2 books a month isn't bad, especially considering that my commute to work is about an hour, a little less. But when you double that, that's 2 hours a day. That's about 10 hours a week. And if you listen to audiobooks, you can get through quite a bit just through your commute alone. I really like these. They're pretty, cheap. You can find them pretty easily in library sales. But they have a heft to them. They're very heavy, and they open really nicely. So they just kind of fall open. You don't have to force them open. So they're just easy to read. You can take them anywhere, and you don't have to stress about ruining them because they can take a lot of real reading behavior. This one, the first one, is the mother of all books, War and Peace. This is the year I'm going to read War and Peace, and I'm excited because I've heard really great things about it. I've heard that it has sections that are really devoted to the story itself, and then sections that are really battle-based and war-based. And I sense I'm probably going to skim through those. Another is a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. That's hard to say. And this is by Mark Twain. This is about time travel. I love time travel, so I think I'm going to like this one a lot. The next is my first Henry James, Portrait of a Lady. And don't you love that picture? That's like how I feel at the end of my teaching day. I just come home in my Victorian outfit and fall asleep on the couch like that. I usually don't look that good though. But my first Henry James, I'm a little nervous about this one. This is a little bit of a stretch for me because he's a little wordy. I'm just a little nervous with Henry James. Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. I read a George Eliot book a couple years ago, Middlemarch, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to give this one a shot. I think I've seen BBC versions here or there at the library, so I'll probably watch those as I read this one. Thomas Hardy, Far from the Madding Crowd. I recently read Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Oh, so sad. I read that a couple years ago. And of course, I read a couple Thomas Hardys in high school. I think we might have read Return of the Native and maybe another one. And I remember them being very sad, but I do remember being very into the books. Like, they were page turners. So I'm excited to try this one. So this is another Thomas Hardy called The Woodlanders. This one came very highly recommended, and it's such a pretty picture. And whoever said don't judge a book by its cover was off their rocker, because I do. We all do. It's a beautiful book. So I'm judging it. And then Charles Dickens, Our Mutual Friend. And a lot of people say that Our Mutual Friend ended up being their favorite Dickens. The Professor by Charlotte Bronte. And this was actually the first real book she wrote. I mean, she wrote some juvenilia, but this was the first book she wrote and tried to get published. And this one here just kept getting rejected and rejected. And then after a certain amount of rejection, she wrote a little book called Jane Eyre, which is one of my favorites. Jane Eyre is so good. And then eventually, once she got success with that, later on, this got published when they said, oh, you do know how to write. Okay, we'll publish this one. It's a little shorter than her other novels. I've read, I think, almost everything by her now. This might be the last book. I'm just finishing up Shirley by her, which is really good. So I'm curious to see how I'll feel about this one. Her first try. We'll see. This one is The Black Tulip by Alexandre Dumas, who wrote The Count of Monte Cristo, one of the greatest books in the world. I love it. This one, not as long as The Count of Monte Cristo. These ones are called the Word Cloud Classic. These ones are what they're called Flexibound, which means they're it's not a hardcover and it's not a softcover. It's somewhere in between. And they're called word cloud because they create these word clouds on the front. So they'll have the title and the author and some of the characters, and then they'll have some phrases from the story, and they'll do the same on the front and the back. This particular one is so soft. This feels like a flannel blanket. I swear, this one is just so soft. And this is a compilation, it's called Classic Horror Tales, and it's a compilation of many, many, many different authors and books. So this will be kind of a fun, sampler to read around October. They have really interesting end pages. So this one, the end pages here are quite beautiful. Another creepy one, Dracula, and this is by Bram Stoker. There's the end pages. Tarzan of the Apes and the Return of Tarzan. That's pretty neat looking, isn't it? This one I'm really excited about. The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. And I love the cover there. It's like a metallic gold. And there's the end page for that one. Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. It's a simple flower pattern there. And Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Mr. Stevenson. If you look really closely, you'll see it's actually the two men in the form of a skull. My Antonia by Willa Cather. And she wrote around the same time as Laura Ingalls Wilder, the same period of American history. So I'm curious to hear her take. Elizabeth Gaskell, Wives and Daughters. I read North and South a couple years ago, and I enjoyed that. It's very similar to Jane Austen, and she was a contemporary of the Brontes, and she was good friends with Charlotte Bronte, and actually wrote a book about Charlotte Bronte. But this is Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons. I don't know a lot about it, but people rave about it. And this is actually an Edith Wharton compilation of 3 of her stories, and I've read 2 of them, and the one I haven't read is on my list, and that is The Custom of the Country. Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom, and it's a children's story, and it's become a classic. I don't know a lot about it, but it looks like it might be up my alley. All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque, and just a beautiful version. It's cloth cover. Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And I don't know a lot about this, but everyone that's read it seems to adore it. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith is a classic, and I've only heard wonderful things about this. Finally, The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. It's about books and like a mystery, and I don't know, it just sounds great. So those are the books that I am going to be reading this year, and I'm sure I'll read some other books as well, but that's what I've got on my plate, and I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and if I do like 2 a month, I should be in good shape. The War and Peace, I think, is probably going to stretch over a few months, and I might even do an audiobook with that one. We'll see. But that's it, and I hope you have some lovely books with you right now to read, and have a happy new year.